If you're joining me on video, hey, we're on YouTube. You can see me and hear me both at the same time. But if you're not on YouTube and you're listening to the audio, just know that you can swing over anytime and find us on the YouTube. The link should be down below. And you can find the YouTube channel and you can watch and listen at the same time. With that being said, we're going to jump right into today's content. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, Bethany, when you're doing groups, which is the one thing that I'm really love doing, most of what I do now is with groups, whether it's 3 or 5 or 8, and I usually focus on smaller groups. Bethany, when you lead groups, how do you get things started? Like, a lot of people experience the groups that I facilitate or coach, and they're like, Bethany, you go deep so quick. They'll finish up a group, or even the second time they meet together, and go, wow, I feel like I know these people closer than my own family. Well, the reason is, A, you're doing deep relational skill practice with other people that are longing for the same thing. There's a difference in that because not everybody's longing to be part of a deep group, to feel seen, to know they are, but a lot of times we don't always feel safe to do so. So we create this safe atmosphere, but then we also allow people like, hey, I am one of these people that really do want to go deeper in the relationship here. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm engaged. That's why this is so important to me. One thing that we do, actually two things. One, we practice interactive appreciation. If you were there for that podcast, it's back in November, October-ish 2023. You're watching this January 2024. So you'll have to go through the audio podcast for those. But the reason interactive appreciation is so important to me, because I tell you the truth, I start every group and I start every one-on-one session that I have with interactive appreciation. That's how important it is to me, because it really does help reset the mind. It helps get our attention to what God is already doing and actively working on in our life, but it also turns on relational circuits. Like, you may be physically in a group with other people, but your mind could be focused on something a mile away, right? I've done that. I can't be the only person. And yes, I do struggle with ADD, okay? I struggle with my mind being on totally different things. But more than that, I can struggle just being in the moment and being present in the moment. Interactive appreciation is a two-part process, and I'm not going to go into all of it. If you want more information, you can go back to that episode. I really encourage you to do it, and we might do more. We might do more on interactive appreciation coming up. But what I want you to know is that it's a two-part process. One is that moment that that person's really having that memory, that moment, come back in and experience it for themselves. But it's also two, they're sharing it either with me, the person that's right across from them, or they're sharing it with the group. And sometimes there's curious questions. Sometimes you're getting everybody else's what relational circuits going. So it really does, it's almost like a warm-up for the group, but it creates safety, it creates intimacy. You're there, you're sharing stories together, you're connecting heart to heart. So I would not practice checking in without some kind of heart to heart connection before that. And appreciation, interactive appreciation, honestly, is the best way I know how. So if you have something else out there, come share it with me. I'm all game. But for that, and it never gets old, because God is always doing, God is always moving. He's showing up in amazing ways in our life. So that never gets old. So after we practice interactive appreciation in some of the groups, we move on to check-in. Now, check-in is an opportunity where you can show up with your whole heart. You can show up and actually share, because again, it's a safe environment. You can share what is going on in your life, in your world. And so what we do is I usually share a feelings wheel, and I have 2 or 3 that I go to depending on the group. If they're just getting started, there's a couple key emotions, and these are straight from Luke 10, but I know some other groups that practice it. We usually do sachet, which is sad, angry, scared, happy, excited, tender. Those are the 6 core emotions. So we can focus on those, and sometimes you can just say those words and then allow that person to go, what category would I even find myself in? And then the more advanced wheels, you'll have those categories and they'll break it down into several different words. And that way they're able to really label, or that way you're able to label what it might be. As the person's checking in, the rest of the group is listening. So they're normally naming, today I'm checking in sad, angry, scared, happy, excited, tender. And what I try to encourage my groups to do is, as you're checking in, as that person's checking in, we do like a 2-minute timer, or intuitively you do a 2-minute timer, because it's so easy once you connect with that emotion to share a lot. And a lot of times in a group setting, especially if you're facilitating, coaching, leading that group, it's really easy for one person to accidentally take over, and we think, oh, they don't understand what they're doing. No, they don't, because they're wrapped up sometimes in emotion. And this might be one of the first times that they validated it in front of somebody else. Keep that in mind. You've been there. You connected with an emotion, and a lot of times we either try to verbally work our way out of it, or sometimes we're exploring and we're verbal processors, which it can go even longer. Sometimes we freeze. Even that moment. And you can be with that person even in those freezing moments. But you want to be aware of the time that it takes in the group. So with that being said, the person understands an emotion. They're explaining why this emotion is so prevalent in their life right now. And then after that, the group can respond. Now, we're not going to go into all the different responses today, because I'm just going over the logistics of some of this, because I like to keep these episodes short so you can listen as you're driving in the car, or, in these weird little moments that you have in between clients, or whatever it looks like to you. But I just want to get it started, because I really want you to see where this fits in the scheme of things. So as they're checking in, they've understood an emotion, or if they haven't, you've helped them identify it. Now, how do we help people identify emotions? A lot of times, and how I help is through body sensations, and I'm paying attention to what is going on in my body. So when I'm doing a check-in, one of the very first things I do is I take a deep breath and I hold it, and then I breathe out. And I don't do that just for show. I had somebody in one of my groups go, okay, Bethany, we know how to breathe. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that for you. Like, you may think I'm doing that for you. I'm doing that for me. I need to take a deep breath because I'm checking in right now too. And that's another important point. As a part of the group, you are checking in as well. If you are facilitating, if you are leading, if you are coaching the group, you need to check in as well. This is important. Now, I will say this. I don't check in purposely heavy to a group that I'm teaching these skills to for the first time. I don't check in purposely heavy to honestly any group on that I'm facilitating. I may check in a little heavy, which I know what that is, as much as I feel like they can handle. But for the really heavy check-ins, I've got somebody that I'm checking in with on a daily basis. That is my responsibility, to be with somebody that, usually one or two people, for those daily check-ins that have seen me at my good, my bad, my ugly. They're the ones that I really check in with on a day-to-day basis. I shouldn't be holding all of the emotions as a facilitator and bringing them to my group and going, okay, I should have the emotional and the regulation skills where I have one or two people, or maybe I have a group that I'm not facilitating, that I'm checking in with. Okay, whatever that place is, whatever that group is, it needs to be a person or a group that you're checking in with and you're really showing up for. You can have a level of that here, but especially if this is a brand new group that you're doing this with for the first time, this is not the place. This is not the place for the heavy check-ins. Now, you do need to say, hey, today I'm feeling excited. I'm doing my first video podcast. I'm excited. I'm feeling the excitement in my body. I'm feeling alive on camera. This is so cool. I'm a little bit scared because I'm trying to make sure I'm looking at the camera and my eyes don't always cooperate. I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys know I have vision issues. I'm actually blind in my left eye, and I am mostly blind actually in my right eye. And people don't even know the system. So I literally on Zoom when I'm doing groups, I'm not really looking at myself. I'm paying attention to the other group members. But there's a lot of times where people are like, Bethany, we don't even know that you have vision issues or even hearing issues because you look normal on camera. And so when I'm doing this, even this check-in right now, I'm realizing, wow, I'm feeling a little anxious because I'm the only one on screen here. And I'm not really trying to pay attention to myself. I'm trying to pretend like there's a group, which there's not, but I'm trying to pretend like there's a group out there that I'm talking to make this sound as natural as it is. But the truth is, I'm a little scared that people are going to watch this video and go, oh, wow, like what's going on with their eyes? Or, oh, wow, like she's got hearing aids. I didn't even know that. And how did this even work? Which I might do an episode about that. Some people have asked those questions. So if that's you, hold on tight. We'll probably do an episode about that because you guys are curious about that kind of stuff. So I'm noticing that myself, and I'm noticing this excitement coming through my expression, but also this like almost shrinking inside of myself. And I'm noticing that. And I'm not pushing it away. I'm just sharing that as it is. And so if I was sharing in a group setting, this is that moment where the group, and especially whoever the facilitator is, can respond with some purifying questions, or sometimes we even call them qualifying questions. They're not deep, deep, deep. And this is hard, especially if you've got counseling in you or you've got coaching in you. You are not trying to necessarily get to a certain place. Okay. You're not trying to make it feel all better for them. That is not your responsibility. You can't control the way they're feeling. You can't. You don't have that permission. Sorry. You don't have that power either. But what you can do is you can offer them questions where you can better understand how they're feeling. A great question that I normally ask most people that are sharing, especially for the first time, is, hey, you said you checked in as excited. Can you tell me where you feel that in your body? Here's why that's so important. A lot of times when we're trying to identify an emotion, we're thinking about it. God never created us to do it like that. He created us to feel, as Kurt Thompson normally says, from the head or from the feet to the head and right to left. Okay, that's literally how God has allowed us to feel and experience life. By that, I mean, when we're sad, we should feel it in our body. And because we're feeling our shoulders get heavy and we're feeling this knot in our throat, and we may even notice that we're losing eye contact with the other people around us because we're feeling sad and we're feeling like we need to come into ourselves. We might even feel like we need to hide. That tells me I'm getting sad. I can literally do that with my body because I know how that feels. That sadness feels in my body because I've connected with it, because I've allowed myself to express in that way. Part of these check-ins allows our clients, allows our group members to feel for the first time what sadness feels like so that they can know from experience and then label that experience. That's how it's supposed to work. Most of the times what's happened is that we've gone through so much trauma, we've gone through so much stuff in our life that we are feeling from our head, think, oh, I must feel like that because such and such happened, because we've literally cut ourselves off from the neck down because we're trying to protect ourselves. We don't want to feel sad. We don't want to feel angry. So we're literally disconnected from the rest of our body, and we're trying to get some neuroplasticity going in our head to figure out how we're supposed to be feeling. And we wonder why we overreact in different ways because we're not even connected the way our body's relationally connecting. With all that being said, this is why check-in is so important. And I hope you're hearing this too. This is why it's really important to have that safety net to begin with. So this is why we're slowing this down and we're not necessarily going through how we would respond in this episode. Instead, we're really focusing on one, do not do check-in without a good safety net. Don't do it. Don't. I would not walk away from this episode and start practicing with your group if you have not practiced yourself. Okay. I would come into one of my groups. And it's not a shameless plug for me, but if you're not in groups that are practicing this, you really don't need to start practicing this with your clients. You need to offer to yourself, and you just sit there with yourself and experience what yourself over and over and over again with a community of practice before you can offer this experience to others, because you cannot offer what you yourself have not experienced. I feel like I can say that so many times because I think we're in this world where we just soak up so much information and we feel like we got it. It's like, okay, if you're going to go do an operation on someone, you're going to read the book and then, okay, let's go do it. No, you practice. You practice over and over and over again to make sure that you're not going to cause physical harm to somebody. These groups, guys, they're so important. They're so deep. We can cause more damage to people if we don't get this practice in with safety nets, with people around us that know what they're doing. That's why these groups are so important. So I hope you hear that. Start with a safety net, don't practice unless you really know what you're doing and you practice with other people. And then also when you're checking in, when you're with other people checking in and you're practicing maybe with one person right now, because this might be the first person that you're practicing with, just practice. You're noticing their body language. You're asking curious questions. You're not trying to fix. Start there. Start there with that one other person and start really checking in. Practice an interactive appreciation moment and then check in together. Just start there and then see where that goes. So I hope this was enough to kind of get your relational circuits going and your curiosity going, because next week we are going to go dive a little deeper into, okay, once somebody checks in, how does the group respond? If you're looking for more information about this, Luke 10 is a great place to connect with. Obviously, Step Out and Thrive. If you're not connected with one of our groups, like go visit BethanyBoring.com. It's the splash page where you can get all the information. Luke 10 is a great organization that I connected with, really, that got all this started for me. A really great place to do this. Another group that I connected with is Table and Well. They're another group that offers groups as well, and they do this practice on a routine basis with this group, with their groups. And another one is also Face-to-Face Ministries. They offer this in part of their groups that they practice as well in their hub. So I'm sure there's other groups out there that practice this, but I really want to stress that you get connected with a group that's already practicing this. Again, would love to have you Step Out and Thrive, but more in light, I really do want you in a community to practice. So I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and cannot wait to see how this is used in your life. So, all right, guys, see you next week.